Well, let's get more on this now. To get some sense of how Prime Minister Johnson's statements about Brexit have been received on the continent, we're joined by Pieter Cleppe. He's the head of Open Europe's Brussels office, and he's joining us live from there. Very good to have you with us on Al Jazeera. So firstly, do you think that European leaders will be surprised at all, given Boris Johnson was saying a few weeks ago that the chance of a no-deal Brexit were 1 in a million?
I don't think they are surprised, but they are very quickly approaching crunch time. Basically, what Boris Johnson has said is that he only wants to meet EU leaders if they are prepared to reopen negotiations on the binding part of the Brexit agreement that Theresa May agreed. So far, EU leaders had said that they would only be open to discuss changes to the non-binding part. So they will very soon have to make up their mind if they push on that terrible, dreadful no deal button or not.
Is it likely that they'll change their mind, though, given the very strong comments that we've heard from people like Michel Barnier, from Jean-Claude Juncker, saying that they're not going to renegotiate the binding parts? All the while, Boris Johnson says that the Irish border, that's one thing that has to go, the so-called backstop.
Well, Boris has not repeated that he wants to see the whole backstop gone, which is an arrangement whereby the EU gets a veto over when Britain gets its trade policy powers back. Boris is basically, for now, requesting the simple principle that changes to the binding part of the draft deal should be possible. Now, are EU leaders going to give in to that? I think it's hard to say. Ultimately, they will look at Ireland, because the backstop is something inserted to reassure Ireland that no hard border is possible. What we see in Ireland is that there is less and less support for the position of the current Irish government on Brexit. We also see some media comments criticizing Leo Varadkar, the Irish Prime Minister. So I think the pressure on Ireland is going to increase, because also, if you look at it from the Irish perspective, there are two options. The first option is to be pragmatic and to make a few more concessions, because Ireland has already made concessions. The other option is a no deal, which would be followed by a hard Irish border and potentially also tensions between Ireland and its continental allies.
So, Mr. Cleppe, are you saying that the people of Ireland themselves are open to negotiating the backstop?
Even that is hard to say. There's one opinion poll showing that indeed there is less support for the negotiations or the stance of the Irish government on Brexit as compared to January. But on the other hand, you see that both sides are digging in. It's sometimes it seems that it's no longer about the content. It's not. It's about no longer making concessions. And I think that's very dangerous territory. I think not only Ireland but also the UK has to be open to making concessions, because Brexit means perpetual negotiation. Many concessions will be needed in the next decades to come.
And it's being increasingly described, as a game of chicken being played by Boris Johnson and the EU on the other side. Of course, this isn't a game. Who would you say is going to be the bigger loser here if we're really looking at Britain leaving the EU without a deal?
Now, it's obvious that the UK is going to lose out more, but the question is, does that matter? If there are 20,000 job losses in Germany's car manufacturing industry, does it matter that there are 40,000 job losses in the UK, or does it not matter at all? I think the second. Well, the only thing that matters is that there's going to be a lot of damage according to some estimates, Ireland would be hit economically harder than the UK itself as a result of No Deal Brexit. So even if the EU as a whole is going to lose out less from a no deal than the UK, single countries that are crucial to prevent no deal, like Ireland, may be hit more badly. So I think that's the real thing you have to look at.
Mr. Cleppe,